Hidden heaven on earth. Bosnia and Herzegovina is the most underrated country in Europe. Its picturesque scenic towns and villages and serene turquoise waters steal your heart. The country was under the Ottoman rule between 1463 to 1908, which vastly makes up the Muslim culture and which is one of the reasons of the rich Islamic architecture and Turkish-inspired culture, which can be seen and felt throughout. It is one of the richest countries in history, culture, beauty, food and hospitality. Welcome to Bosnia and Herzegovina. Welcome to Bosnia. Welcome back to Mashup Travel, guys. First of all, I would like to thank you all for your support and love. I hope you are enjoying the Bosnia and Herzegovina series. I have a very special and informative video for you today. It's all about the Latin Bridge and the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria and why and how it all happened and how it sparked the World War I. And I'm sure you will love the video. If you like the video, do not forget to like, share and subscribe so you are the first to be notified when I upload a new video.
But the street you were on is probably the most important street, historically speaking, in the 20th century. He probably told you that the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated there, which is true. But I will tell you now how it happened, why it happened, and so on. So you have to know that the Austro-Hungarians came into the city in 1878, and they weren't actually favorites around here. So the people really didn't like the Austro-Hungarians. We had our own language, we had our own alphabet, and they made us use their own. Like they made us use the German language and also like the Latinic alphabet. This bridge is actually called the Latin Bridge because the first newspapers that were written in Latin alphabet were sold here.
What language was it before? Was it Arabic based?
Actually, during the Ottoman Empire, a lot of people were still cherishing the traditions and the languages. Essentially, what happened is that Bosnia still had its own languages. The most educated people were speaking Arabic and Turkish as well. But in Bosnia, commoners used Bosnian and they used the alphabet called Arabica, which is kind of similar to the Arabic alphabet but adjusted to the Bosnian language.
Okay. That's similar to ours, like Urdu.
Maybe like Urdu and Hindi and Punjabi.
Also, what happened is that Austro-Hungarians weren't favored around here, and essentially some kind of nationalistic parties groups started rising, especially on the Serb part. There was a party an organization called Young Bosnia, which then when Serbia found out about it changed its name to Black Hand because they were now funded by Serbia, so Young Bosnia really didn't fit the scheme of the names. The reason why Serbia took interest in that nationalistic organization is the fact that at that time there was a very nationalistic king in Serbia. He kind of proposed the idea of Great Serbia, Big Serbia, which means that he would expand over other regions where Serbs lived. They would do the ethnic cleansing, so only Serbs would remain, and in that way he would form an entire country.
Yeah.
Just before I tell you how this comes into play, I want to tell you a bit about Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. Franz Ferdinand was a very powerful man in that period. He was very rich, he was very well educated. He was actually proclaimed the heir of Modena in Italy, but also the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was very unlikely because the first in line for throne was his cousin Rudolf, who committed suicide, and then the second in line for throne was his father, who actually died of a fever, so the third in line got the heir. The reason why I'm mentioning his wife is because she's often not mentioned, because it was kind of a left-hand marriage. He was up high in rank and she wasn't. She was a Duchess of Stuttgart, but she was way below him. So the marriage wasn't really looked at as a real marriage. Their kids wouldn't be considered heirs to the throne. And even his cousin Joseph II, who was emperor at the time, didn't even come to the wedding ceremony. She couldn't actually accompany him on most official events. She could go with him only on events like surrounding military, because he was also a military general. That's why he came here. He came here to inspect the military, to see what's going on and so on. And his visitation to Sarajevo was announced in February of 1914. He was supposed to come here on 28th of June 1914, which he did. And everyone actually knew the route he would go on. He would go to a hotel in Ilija. He would stay there for a few hours, then go to see the barracks, and then also after that he would go back to the hotel and then to the city hall, which you can sort of see.
Yeah.
Yeah, would be, yeah.
The route was he would go from the hotel down this street. After he holds a speech in the city hall, he would go around the city hall and then back to the hotel, or even back to Vienna, depending on how tired he was. This was very known because everyone wanted to see the Archduke, everyone wanted to be there. So the Black Hand, the organization that I mentioned before, actually took that in their advantage. Some people say there were about 6 members, 9 members, 11. It was never really proved how many there were, but it always surrounds those numbers. There were 3 bridges. There are now 4 before the city hall. The group would split into 3 groups, and each group would stand at one of the bridges. Each person would carry a hand grenade gun and also a cyanide gun if things got ugly, so they could just take it. So on 28th of June 1914, on the day of the huge parade that was on because the Archduke went to the city hall, the Black Hand actually threw a hand grenade at his car, which got repelled and fell down the street, and then 20 people were actually wounded and taken to hospital. At that point, the common people were pushed out of the street. The security was maxed. Nobody could even see him. And he would go down to the city hall. He talked to our mayor. He said, "Okay, I was almost killed. What was going on?" The mayor said, he told him about the separatist groups, about the Black Hand, so he was familiarized with the idea, and it wasn't actually Bosnian doing. So he was fine with that. But remember when I told you that he was supposed to go around the city hall? His driver actually instead went down the same street by accident. Some people say it wasn't an accident at all.
It was planned.
Yeah, some people, it's kind of conspiracy theories, nobody really knows. But he was supposed to turn into this street you were on to get back on with the route.
Yeah.
And that's where Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old guy who was a part of the Black Hand organization, comes in. Some people say that he was standing on the bridge here when he saw the Archduke drive down. Some people say he was actually on the corner of that street. Nobody really knows what happened, but everyone knows that once his driver turned into that street over there, actually Gavrilo Princip took his gun, killed both his wife Sophie and also the Archduke. His wife Sophie was pregnant at the time, which is also considered a great tragedy back then. Gavrilo Princip was immediately imprisoned. He was taken to Krakow, which is one of the most violent prisons during that time, and it's in Poland. But what you need to know is that sometimes around here he is painted a villain, sometimes he is painted a hero, depending on which side the story goes. There's actually a statue for him in Serbia, so that's another thing to take in.
Do they recognize him as a hero or something?
In Serbia, maybe.
In Serbia, yes. But around here, he is actually some guy who is a nationalist, and he is looked frowned upon.
He started the First World War.
Exactly.
They regard him as a hero.
Yeah, it's very much like the Serbian mentality in that aspect, because the big Serbia idea still lives on. Now, I have to mention, I will repeat the date, 28th of June 1914. That's the date the Archduke died. But then Austro-Hungary got here, they got their investigators here, they investigated a bit, and they found out about different organizations. They found out the the Archduke's murder was linked to the Black Hand. They found out about their link to Serbia, and then they gave Serbia some kind of an ultimatum. They said like, okay, if you don't let us like research in your territory what was actually happened, we will declare a war to you. Serbia said, no, you can't come to our territory, you can't investigate here. So on 28th of July 1914, Austro-Hungarian Empire declared war to Serbia. At that time, as is today, Serbia was friends with Russia, so Russia decided to support Serbia. They declared war to Austro-Hungary. Then Germany decided to support Austro-Hungary, declared war both to Russia and also like Serbia, and that's how the First World War began actually. But what I like to say about this event is that this event is kind of the best example of the butterfly effect. A lot of like archdukes were killed over time. None of them caused the First World War, but this one did. And essentially the First World War caused like the Treaty in Versailles, which caused the Nazi Party to rise, which caused the Second World War, which caused then the Cold War, then the space run, then if you really look into it, even like 9/11 can be linked to the guy killing like Archduke right in this street. After the First World War, here like monarchy of Yugoslavia formed. Yugoslavia actually means Southern Slav land, and it kind of united everywhere where like Southern Slavs live. So that's Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Kosovo if you count it as a country because it's very much a question still, Montenegro and Macedonia. We don't really talk about that period of time that fondly because when the Second World War came, our king at the time completely left us and fled. So we were left without a lead, and that's where Tito, you probably heard about him, came into play. He is actually the guy that helped liberate Yugoslavia from Nazis. And he actually formed the Socialist Federative Republic of Yugoslavia, which is the only way that the people here could actually come together. If you push the religion aside, the people get along very well, and that's why socialist regime was good for this territory.
That's good.
Do you guys have any questions?
No. That's really, really detailed. They're really good.
Really good at telling that part of the tour.
Was this planned by brother and sister?
No.
No, I just
They're both
finished
brother
the
and
tour
sister
I was
guys.
walking out with my friend, and I saw his, and I was like, okay, let's say hi. And he's like, oh, you came in perfect timing.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
So she tells this story much better than I do.
This is my favorite part of it too.
Oh, okay.
Usually.
So
So that's